Don't rush what God has planned for you, because sometimes God slows us down so that the evil ahead of us can pass before we get there. You see, if you run too fast, you might trip and fall on your face. When we hurry too much, we fall out of harmony with the flow of life. I'm not sure if you know about DJing, but when you have two songs playing simultaneously, they have to align or else they sound out of whack. It clashes and the sound is not harmonious. It becomes noise. But when you get two songs in the same time, in the same key, they can flow together and they become a completely new thing. In the same way, when we are not aligned with life, whether we are rushing too fast or even going too slow, we live offbeat, out of harmony. Our life becomes noise. As I like to say, we are instruments of God and our life is the song. But when we are out of tune, our song lacks harmony. Our life is full of problems, misery, and suffering. But the moment we align ourselves back with the truth, with life, with harmony, so too the song of our life becomes harmonious and beautiful. You see, the mind wants things right now, and it wants what it wants, and it doesn't care what anyone has to say about it. But the problem is, the mind exists in this state where it always needs to consume more and more and more. It is never enough. It is like a black hole. And the problem is that there is not enough stuff in this world to consume. The more you feed a black hole, the bigger the black hole gets. That's why with things like addiction, you always need more to get the same result. You're never satisfied. You're always left feeling more empty than before. One of the most important things we can ever realize in this life is that you cannot find lasting satisfaction in a temporary world. And if you try, you will be on a hamster wheel your whole life. And trust me, people do it. They do it all the time. And they are miserable. How many billionaires and multimillionaires live in these great penthouses, and yet they want to kill themselves? They have everything in the world. You see in the news or on social media when these famous actors go insane, they go crazy. And people wonder, well, they have it all. How could they be that way? Or you see someone like P. Diddler and you question, is that really enough baby oil? Whether 1,000 bottles or 10,000 bottles of baby oil, it is never enough. All the drugs in the world will not satisfy you. All the women or men, all temporary pleasure is just that. It's temporary. But you see, God is eternal. You can't find lasting satisfaction in this world, but you can find lasting satisfaction in God. And you see, as this human body, as this human mind, we are extremely limited. We have a very narrow perspective of life. In fact, you might say that we, in truth, know nothing. And that is wisdom. This is why the cardinal sin is pride. Because when you have pride, you worship the mind. And the essence of the mind is selfishness, consuming. All selfish people are miserable. The more selfish you are, the more miserable you become. And I know this because this is how I have been my whole life. And it did nothing. Now you need a balance between selfishness and selflessness. The point I'm trying to make is that you will never find what you are looking for with your mind. With consuming, with being selfish. And this selfishness, this pride is what causes us to try and get what we want before it's our time. And you're probably not that prideful because you wouldn't be able to listen to what I'm saying. You would have just turned the video off by now. See, the thing is, you can have what you want, but there are conditions. Two paths you can take moving forward. You can get what you want right now and force life to give you what you want. But with this, a whole bunch of negative stuff is going to come along with it. And even worse, you may get exactly what you want. And through it all, you might still be unsatisfied. In fact, I guarantee it. And that is a miserable place to be in. Because when you spend all kinds of time trying to get something, and when you finally get it, you realize it was not what you wanted. Well, then now what do? Find something else to go and get? This is an endless journey. You will find temporary satisfaction and lasting suffering. And this is the deal with the devil. And you see evidence of this all the time. Look at the successful people in life. The famous celebrities, the politicians, powerful people. They can get away with it for a long time, but eventually things catch up with them. You might be able to indulge in temporary pleasures for the first half of your life, but on the back half, you are going to have it all ripped away from you, like P. Diddy. Now, the second path, you can also have everything you could ever desire and more. And this time, you won't get any of the nonsense, and you will be able to enjoy it all. You will enjoy the journey, you will enjoy the end result. But it comes with conditions. It comes with a sacrifice. That is, you stop allowing your life to be led by your mind, and you start allowing your life to be led by God. But you see, the mind's whole game is power and control. And if you cannot give up power and control, well, then you will be a slave to your mind. And if you give up power and control through surrender, you will be a slave to God. I like to think that you cannot be in this life without being a slave to something. But the one choice you do have is what you get to be a slave to. And what we are a slave to determines the quality of our life. Some people are a slave to video games. Some people are a slave to drugs. Some people are a slave to lust. You see, if you're following a bad master, you're going to have a bad time. You see, God is not some tyrannical being that forces you to be a slave. The fact is that most people are children who don't know anything, but their pride causes them to think they know it all. And so, like rebellious children, we go out into the world and think we can do it all on our own. And God is not going to stop you. Only until you are humbled by life will you return to God and say, I figured out that the way that I do things doesn't actually work. That when I allow my life to be led by my mind, there is nothing but suffering. But so long as you have that illusion veiled over your eyes, you will try to find lasting satisfaction in a temporary world. And until you realize that that mission is futile, you will not surrender. You will not give up. You will eat the world and everyone in it. And you will be more hungry after than you were before. You see, the black hole within us is eternal. The more you consume, the bigger it gets. The only other thing that is eternal is God. Two opposing forces of equal value come together and neutralize each other. That everlasting hunger that is the black hole within all of us is finally satisfied. And you can be content and happy and peaceful no matter what. Because so long as your peace or your happiness is conditional, so long as you rely on external conditions, you will always be forced to find new things to grab at. Because everything in this life changes. No matter what you do, desire is like holding on to sand while the ocean waves wash it away. No matter how hard you grip, no matter how hard you try, you will watch as the sand is washed away from your hands. You can never hold on to it. But when you let go, when you surrender, when you trust life, you will find that everything you could ever need, everything you could ever desire, was already yours from the very beginning. Because God has provided all things. Because God is infinite and eternal. But because we live from our minds, we place our problems above God. You see, people don't realize what it means to believe in God. This is not some kind of frivolous thing that you just say, because it has implications. One implication, for instance, is fear. If you say you believe in God, you cannot have fear. I mean, fear might arise, but it doesn't mean that you entertain it. Because to have fear is to assume that God is not in control. If you have really strong desires and attachments, it says that God cannot fulfill you, that the eternal is not satisfying, but you would rather have these temporary pleasures. Now, of course, we forgive ourselves because we're only human, and we come into this world conditioned. We come into this world and we don't know any better. But through continued awareness, we come to discover that there is nothing of the world that can satisfy us. But the good news is that we already have everything we need, because the eternal is within you. The temporary is in the external world. So all ideas of trying to get things from the world, it is futile, it is a waste of time. That is why Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else will be added on to you." It's not that the world is evil. It's not that you can't go and experience and have fun and enjoy these temporary pleasures. That is why they are there. I mean, don't go too extreme. But you experience life from a place of freedom, and freedom comes through surrender. The more you develop your relationship with God, the more you learn to trust. The more you begin to realize that no matter what is happening in your life, God is always in control, and that everything you go through is exactly what you need for your highest spiritual growth, and that there is nothing wrong with life, that the universe is perfect, that harmony is the default state, and it is only our minds that make a mess of everything. Now, of course, the mind is a wonderful tool. In fact, the mind is neutral. But the mind is a pointed object, like a bow and arrow or like a sword. The mind is not bad, it is the one who wields it that determines its use. So if you are bad at wielding your mind, well, then you will make a mess and cut up. You will hurt people, you will hurt yourself. But if you learn to wield the mind properly, you can use it to do wonderful things. You can use it to enjoy life. Enjoy the process of being separated from God. Because without this separation, you would not experience God. So to save you many lifetimes of suffering, begin to become aware of what I speak about the illusionary nature of the world. We live in a consumer culture. I won't even tell you to stop consuming, or stop indulging in addictions or bad things that you think are bad, because it is only through those negative experiences that create suffering will you come to realize the futility of your endeavor. And through the suffering that you experience, you will turn to God, because you will have nowhere else to turn. You will eventually realize that there is nothing in the world that can help you, but that if you surrender and rely on God for all things, that the right things will come to you automatically. And you see, surrender is effortless, but the mind gets bored, it's anxious, it always needs to be doing things. But don't get bored with the peace and the freedom that you will experience from total surrender. Allow God to bring you what you really want, not what you think you want, because God can bring you all of the good things without none of the bad. So don't rush God's timing.